Hi everyone and welcome to DIY Ideas. So today I want to show you how you can make this neck holder top. So if you want to see how you can do it all by yourself, stay tuned. So here is everything that we're going to need for today. So I have some fabric scissors, then some regular paper scissors, some pins. Then I also have my measuring tape and hand gauge. Then also a fabric pen. I do have some paper here as well for the pattern itself, and I use some fabric for the inside just to make it a little bit sturdier. So you see here it's pretty thin. And yeah, then I have here a fabric pen in pink, fabric chalk if you need that, so that you can wash it out of the fabrics later. Then I have here some fabric, some thread that matches the fabric. And mine is elastic, but you can use something else as well if you'd like. This is going to give it just a little bit more stretch, and that's what I want for today. So I have here some black fabric and my sewing needles. So these are jersey needles, which basically means it's for stretchy fabric. And here are the sizes as well. So we're going to do a couple layers, and here is the fabric that I'm going to be using. So I have here 1.5 meters in length. So that's the length, and of course, depending on how long you want it to be, you might need a little bit more or less, but 1 to 1.5 should be fine. So now we're going to start with the bottom section of the top. So we don't need anything special as far as the pattern goes, just the hand gauge to measure it out. So you would measure underneath your bust, and then you need to decide how long you want it to be. So it can be short, something like a top, or it can also be longer, even a dress if you'd like. So yeah, in this case, you would just go basically underneath your chest or breast, your bust, and then measure the length that you want to have. So make sure you take 2 pieces, so 2 exact same sized pieces of fabric. And then also you need to have something that's going to be the same width. So I have 72 centimeters, and you can of course do more or less. Just make sure if you're using stretchy fabrics like I am that you think about that and do maybe a little bit less depending on how tight you want it to be. So in this case, I'm not going to do any extra room for the stitches. I think it should be just fine as it is, since it is stretchier than what I usually work with. So now I'm going to cut out this fabric piece. So I'm going to have the width that I want, the length that I want. And yeah, of course you can do it longer or shorter, just like I said. I like it kind of medium length. So I'm going to do 2 pieces that are 21 centimeters and 36, and these are folded in half, which means that I'm gonna have the right size when I cut them out and unfold them. So just like I said, this is folded in half. There we go. Just make sure you're putting it pretty side on pretty side or facing away from you. And then what we're gonna do is start measuring at the top edge of the fabric, so right here. And then we're gonna do 21, and in length it's gonna be 36, which is gonna double to 72 that I need in the end. So then I'm gonna cut that, and then we can just cut 2 pieces out of that longer piece to get what we need. So here are the 21 centimeters now, so you can still see it's still folded. I'm gonna mark. Just make sure that you're at 21 here, so that's where I folded. And yeah, you can of course, as I said, do more or less depending on your body size, body shape, and your desired result. And then I'm gonna pin everything to keep it in place. Then we're gonna measure the width. So in my case, I'm gonna need 36 centimeters, 2 pieces, the same size. So here are both of the pieces now, and now we can get started with connecting them into one. Just make sure the stretchiness is in the right direction, so to speak, so that when you're cutting, you want the stretch to kind of go in the width and not in the height. So here we have the one piece, and I put it pretty side on pretty side. So here are the two pieces. We're gonna align them. We don't need them folded anymore. And then what we're gonna do is these side stitches right here. So yeah, what we're gonna do is pin them together to keep them in place, and then we're gonna do a regular straight stitch, and what you can also do is an extra seaming stitch just to make sure everything stays in place and doesn't fray. And you're gonna do the same on the other side. We're gonna turn it inside out and iron over it to keep it straight. So yeah, the next step is to take our pins and pin everything together. Now that I did the sides, I did shorten the leftover fabric a little bit, and I wanted to measure how much I had. So the distance between the two stitches that I just did is what I'm measuring. And yeah, I did try it on and correct it just a little bit so that the width that I have fits my size perfectly. And yeah, now we can get on to the top section. So in order to start with the top section, I would recommend doing a pattern first. So you see here I have the paper, the special paper for patterns. I'm not sure what it's called, but here is the fabric in the back that we're going to be using. This is just going to make it a little bit easier. You can of course use some other fabric, but what I like about this is that you can basically adjust it directly on the piece and then work it into the fabric itself. So yeah, that's why I'm choosing this one, but of course you can use anything else that you'd like, maybe even wax paper or something like that. So through the ruffles that we're going to do on the bottom section of this part is gonna work perfectly with our bust, and that's exactly what we want. So I'm gonna use this piece to determine how wide I want my section to be. So we need to make it a little bit wider here than what it's actually gonna look like, because of course that's where our breadths are gonna be covered. So it's definitely not a straight line, but rather a curve that we're covering with fabric. So yeah, you can of course choose any shape and size that you think is appropriate. So I cut this out so that it looks good when I put it on my body. Of course, you can do the same. And you can see here that I stopped at this section right here, but I'm just basically gonna make it get narrower and narrower, and I'm gonna tie it in the back. So it's kind of gonna be an open back. And yeah, I'm gonna show you how I did it on my doll as well, just so you can see on my mannequin. And what we're gonna be doing is just ruffling it a little bit on the bottom, just so it follows the natural curve of the body in this area, and it's gonna look pretty cool. So I'm using a little bit wider measurements than what I need in the end, because we are gonna be ruffling them kind of like this. I hope you can imagine it well when I do it like this, so that in the end it looks good and fits our body naturally. And what we're going to do now is start with our transferring to the fabric. So onto this piece here. So as long as we have this approximate piece that we want to get in the end, what we're going to do is take this piece, basically transfer it, and then mirror it on the other side for the other half as well. So I might do a little bit more just for the stitches so that I can hide everything and seam it nicely, but you should have enough fabric to do this anyway. Actually, in order to make it easier, what you can do is fold the fabric like this. So I folded it in two times in 4 layers total. That way, when I cut out the one piece, I'm actually gonna cut out all of them. So I'm gonna basically go around this pattern. I'm gonna do a little bit more for the stitch and everything else, and I'm gonna also do this top section a little bit longer, but I didn't need the white fabric to kind of know where that's gonna go. So in my case, as I said, I wanna do a knot in the back, but you can do different styles if you don't wanna do a knot. And yeah, now we're gonna cut this out. So now that we have 4 pieces that we need, what we're gonna do next is pin them together to keep them in place. Before we do that, we're gonna try it out. So what I would just do is put it on my body, make sure that I'm satisfied with the way it looks, and just decide where exactly I want it to be. So maybe a little bit closer to, like the 2 halves can be closer or wider apart. This also depends on your body type. But yeah, what we're gonna do is pin them together. What we want is to connect them. So first the 2 layers of each of the halves, and then in the end we're gonna put everything together to get our top in its final form. And yeah, what I'm not gonna do is this bottom section, so I'm gonna keep that open. So I'm just gonna do the edge here, then I'm gonna turn it inside out because the pretty sides are actually facing away from us. And you can see here what it looks like on the other end. You can of course decide if you want this to be straight, if you want a little tip here, you can of course cut a section off to achieve that. But yeah, for now we just need to pin and stitch up this edge here, or the sides. And yeah, you can also do an extra seaming stitch or a zigzag stitch or something like that just to keep it stretchy and flexible. So now that we've stitched everything up, what I always like to do is make sure that all of the edges are nice, all of the stitches are working well, and there's nothing weird going on. So in this case, you can see that I cut off the tip a little bit to the side just so it looks nicer when I tie it in the back. So I basically did a diagonal line and cut across it, and then that's where I did the stitch as well to kind of follow that shape. And yeah, I'm just checking if both pieces are symmetrical. We do want them to be exactly the same before we turn them the other way around. Of course, you can see here that they go in different directions, but apart from that, it's the same. And yeah, what I also like to do is cut off the excess fabric on the other side of the stitch, and also the corner here, just to make sure that it's really pointy when we turn it inside out. That's why we get rid of that piece of fabric right there. Now that we have both of these pieces done, we can put everything together and get our top. So here is the bottom section that we've already done, so it's still turned the other way around. And now we're gonna turn it the kind of halfway like this. So we basically want the pretty sides to be facing us. So both from the inside and the outside, if that makes sense. So we're kind of making a little loop, I guess. And now is also the time to check if everything fits nicely. You can even try it on once more just to make sure. And then what we're gonna do is have this open edge open or on the top, and then we want to connect it to the top sections, the two halves that we just did. What you also can do is fold it inwards like this and then tuck this one half here. In that case, you need to make sure that you iron over this to keep it in place, and also mark where you want each half to end on your bottom piece. So the bottom piece is kind of to orient yourself where on your body the two halves on the top are gonna be. So make sure you try it on and mark it. And then what we're gonna do is do the ruffles that we talked about. So yeah, you want kind of to mark the middle, where you want the middle of each of the top halves to be and where they're gonna be positioned here in terms of the bottom section. So yeah, what I also like to do is fold this inwards a little bit to hide the open edge. It looks really nice in the end and hides all of the stitches. And then we can put basically everything together and make sure it stays in place as well when we start working on the other section. So we would do a regular straight stitch or even a zigzag stitch if you'd like on this top section. And yeah, first things first, we need to pin everything nicely just so it stays in place. You can even iron over it a little bit. And then what we're gonna do is put this piece inside and put it all together with an extra stitch in the end. And then we're pretty much done already. And now after I've done the stitches we talked about, this is what it looks like. So you can see here how I did the ruffles when I put it a bit closer to the camera, and on the other end I also did an extra stitch just to keep it nice and straight. And this is what it looks like when I put it on the mannequin. So the back section has the little bow on top, or the knot, whichever way you like. And this is our project for today. So I hope you enjoyed. Feel free to shoot us a thumbs up to let us know. You can also subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more. And if you do, don't forget the notification bell. I'll see you in our next project. Until then, have a wonderful day. Bye!